Welcome back, Chester County football fans and friends. My name is P.T. Giovanni, and along with Tom Wolf and E.J. Moyer, we are the ChesCo Gridiron Insiders. We're coming to you from Studio 1, located at 520 East Lancaster Avenue in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Studio 1 will be the home of ChesCo Gridiron Insiders for our inaugural season. We are very excited to be here. I mean, look at this place. It's beautiful. It really is a stunning place. Today we will begin by previewing the Chesmont South Division, and when we're done previewing, we're going to have an exclusive interview with Downingtown Athletic Director Cory Seagle, and we're going to speak to him about the changing from 2 divisions to 3 divisions, and I also want to talk to him about the alliance now with the PAC, the Pioneer Athletic Conference. So we can get started with our interviews, but first I'd like to talk to you about Sports Vault. Sports Vault is your premium provider of all sports-related autographed and non-autographed merchandise. Sports Vault is the leader in licensed sports memorabilia, novelties, trading cards, and custom framing. Grand opening is on August 17th, and Sports Vault is located at 520 East Lancaster Avenue, Downingtown, PA.
So we're going to start with the Southern Division of the Chesmont. I got a chance to visit with Kennett's head football coach, Lance Frazier, over the summer. Coach Frazier's been at Kennett for a few years now. Former NFL player, really knows his football. He runs the offense, and I like the way he described his offense. He described his offense as a spread smash mouth offense, Pete.
Okay. That encompasses everything.
Yeah. His defense is led by Wayne Broom, and they are an attacking 4-4 defense. EJ, as a defensive guy, what do you think of the 4-4?
I like the 4-4. Primarily, I think it's good for the run. You can really cover all the gaps. I'm sure they're just a gap scheme team, right? They're taking every gap. For the pass, if you're running a zone, I think it's good. I like it out of like one high shell, right? Because you can cover the flat. You can get 3 deep. Not many teams in the Chesmont, especially if you're not in the big boy division, are going to be able to take advantage of, the openings. So you can kind of get away with playing a 3 deep, 4 under shell. I think that's a really good defense, and I think it gives you a lot of different combinations that you can use to blitz as well. And I'm sure we'll be taking a look at that when we preview the games of the week during the course of the year.
All right. So when I talked to Coach Frazier, the morning I visited him this summer, he had this summer he did a morning session and an afternoon session, depending on when his players could make it. And I got to see about 30 players on the field going through sprints and agilities, and then they were going into the weight room afterwards. When I talked to Coach, he said that he had a lot of younger players that got playing time for them last year. We talked earlier about injuries being a part of football, and when your roster is not built up, those injuries can really hurt you. So Coach Frazier was really pleased that a lot of younger guys got valuable playing time experience last year. Some of the guys that he talked about, Ian Geyer, and I know, Pete, you know
I
Ian.
love him.
He's a 2-year captain, a 3-year starter. He's what you call a throwback kid. He's a running back and an inside linebacker. So he's a team leader. Coach Frazier said he actually has his officiating certificate, and so he would be an official for Little League games. And he's like a coach on the field and an official on the field.
Wow.
So it's really neat to have a kid like that in your program, somebody that you can lean on to be a leader. So we're looking for big things from Ian Geyer this year. Garrett McCracken is going to be the quarterback for Kennett. He got a lot of playing time last year as a freshman. And EJ, I know it's hard to have a freshman play any position, but when it's the most important position on the field, what are your thoughts about having a returning quarterback that young?
Well, two things. One, when you hear that someone had a freshman quarterback playing last year, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know this to be fact, but my guess is he probably wasn't the starting quarterback to start the year. He probably took over due to injury, which tells you maybe that's why Kennett, wasn't as good as maybe they were hoping to be last year. I know they struggled a little bit. I don't believe they made the playoffs. Is that accurate?
No,
They missed them.
So the good news is your freshman now becomes a sophomore and he has experience. So anytime we talked about this on the previous show that aired yesterday, you have a quarterback coming back with experience, your team should be better. It's very difficult to win with a quarterback who is inexperienced and doesn't really know the system as well. So I'm sure that's really going to help Kennett in the new division, the new South Division this year.
Some of the other guys that Coach Frazier mentioned as being team leaders and who was hoping to really contribute for him. Xavier McGrill was an all-league safety last year. Coach Frazier, being a former defensive back, really went on to describe Xavier in glowing terms. He said he's the ball hawk. He's going to play some offense this year as well, just because he's such a good athlete. Eli Frazier, no relation to the head coach, is also an inside linebacker, and in that spread smash mouth offense, he's kind of like the motion tight end, somebody they call a sniffer, and the offense will run through him. Jacob Thompson will be a right guard and a defensive end. He's a two-way lineman. And Ben Shaw will be the center and the three-tech defensive tackle. So a couple linemen that they're hoping will fill the gaps both ways for them. Game circle on the Kennett schedule that Coach Frazier mentioned. He's really looking forward to his rivalry games. Unionville, obviously, is right down the road. That's their big rival. Ruston is another big rival. They've had some great games the last couple of years, Pete.
Yes, they have. Yeah, Kennett is at the point where they've challenged Ruston.
They beat them a couple years ago.
Yeah, they beat them a couple
And
times.
it was a pretty good upset. So those games are good. Coach Frazier also mentioned he's excited to play Avon Grove, who we'll preview in a couple minutes. They're new on the schedule. They moved over from the old National Division of the Chesmont, and they're in this new Southern Division. So we're looking for good things from Coach Frazier. He's got his program pointed in the right direction, and hopefully everybody stays healthy at Kennett.
Yeah.
Wolfie, I was kind of a couple years ago when I was on the Coatesville staff, remember playing Kennett and was extremely impressed with Coach Frazier and what he was able to do. I think it was his first year taking over the program. It was either his first or second. And, man, they gave us a battle, in the first half of the game to the point where, I was like, wow, these guys – I was really impressed with his coaching ability and what he was able to do with the kids. So I think, last year I wouldn't say I was disappointed. I know I got to catch the Ruston-Kennett game and was really thinking, wow, I'm really looking forward to it. I know Kennett beat them the previous year, and things just didn't turn out. I know they were kind of decimated by injuries, I guess, at that point. So what can you tell me about Coach Frazier? When you sat down with him, were you really impressed with?
He's an impressive guy.
Yes, he is.
He knows his stuff. In addition to being the head coach, in addition to being the offensive coordinator and play caller, he's also the strength and conditioning coach. He's a certified trainer, so he's going to get him in the best shape possible. And he's just one of those guys that gets it. Pete,
Yeah.
when you're talking to a football guy that gets it,
Right.
It's just fun to talk to.
It's fun to talk to. Yeah, he's not bigger than the game. He was an NFL player, and you would never know it. He's humble, and he's all about the kids.
Yep.
Okay, the next team we're going to do is the Oxford Hornets, led by Mike Means. A little bit of a disappointing season last year for the Hornets, but Mike is very encouraged this year as he has 7 offensive starters back and 8 starters back on defense. He started 13 sophomores last year and lost 3 one-score games, which gives him a lot of hope for this year. He feels they will be strong up front. His entire offensive line is back, and he's led by center David Koskobi, who was first-team All-League last year, and he's a very strong physical run blocker, as Coach Means says all his offensive linemen are. So obviously they're going to go to a power running game this year. But he also has a returning quarterback in Aiden Kane. He's a returning starter, very good athlete. He's got a strong arm, and he should benefit from game experience last year. Also, on their defensive side, with 8 starters back, he feels up front and his linebackers will be strong. He's a little worried about his secondary. They're young. But he says the leader of the defense is a kid named Joel McLean, who was second-team All-Chesmont last year. He's an emotional leader of the defense. He said he runs sideline to sideline, and he's like having a coach on the field. He's very high on Joel McLean. And he also has a kid named Aiden Etzer on the defensive line. And he had a great offseason in the weight room, and he's very encouraged. In fact, when you talk to Coach Means, he keeps bringing up how physical this bunch of Hornets are. And that's something maybe that they haven't been in the past. He's really encouraged by his weight room participation, and he says we just have a bunch of really tough kids. And his definite goal is to make the District 1 playoffs, which would be a huge accomplishment for Oxford football. But I think he can do it. I really do, because the optimism just pervades through the whole roster. It's not just the head coach. When you talk to the kids, you realize that they think that they can be there. And like you said, they lost 3 one-score games last year with 13 sophomores starting. And as you guys know as coaches, nothing like game experience. You can't really do it just on a practice field. And
They do a great job down there at Oxford. We played them down there a couple years ago. It's a tough place to play.
It is.
And it's at the bottom of Chester County, so no matter where you're driving from, it's a long drive. It's a grass field. Their fans are very enthusiastic. Yeah. They come out and they really support their team.
Yeah, it's a community event when Oxford plays football on a Friday night. And the thing is, the youth last year, they didn't get blown out of a lot of games. They got blown out a couple games, but they lost 3 one-score games, like I said. And his motto is 11 is 1. He says it's all about team. It's not about the individual. This is an excited group of kids. They could cause some trouble in the Chesmont South.
Pete, I know when I was at Coatesville a couple years ago, we played them, and they're chippy. They're a chippy bunch.
Yeah.
And they're, like you said, they plan on being physical this year. I think the only one thing that, I would worry about, in picking them moving forward is you definitely want to be physical. That's the line of scrimmage. Sounds like they have some guys back, but sometimes they tend to, take some personal foul penalties and things like that, which might have cost them. I don't know if Coach mentioned anything that last year, but I mean, that's going to cost you games, especially in one-score games.
Well, it's definitely going to cost you games, and he didn't get into that, but I think he hopes that with a lot of juniors and seniors that played as sophomores, that they're going to be eliminated, because they have been chippy in the past. You're right, Coach, and they need to play clean football.
All right. We'd like to take a time out from the show and hear a word from our sponsors. Custom Creations, located in King of Prussia Mall, for providing us with these great ChesCo Insider t-shirts. I always go to Custom Creations when I need or want anything made up, like a t-shirt for a team, or like a Jalen Hurts sweatshirt idea, or even a keychain or coaster with a picture of my dog Bailey on it. Check out Custom Creations at Custom Creations, KOP, at gmail.com, or simply call them 610-265-3755.
All right, so next we're going to take a look at the Unionville football team. Unionville's coached by Tim Murphy. Tim got the job a couple years ago when the old coach
Pat Clark
retired. The name escaped me for a minute, but Pat was there forever, and he built a great program.
Yes, he did. Down
at Unionville. A lot of tradition, a lot of playoff appearances, and that's what Tim is hoping to replicate and continue down at Unionville. When I talked to him over the summer, he says he has a young team. They got a lot of experience last year, so it's another one of those teams that had some growing pains and may not have won as much as they did last year, but they got a lot of young guys, got experience and playing time. He says they put the work into the weight room, in the classroom. When I went to see him this summer, they were going through defensive drills. They were very motivated. Their coaching staff was running all over the place. They very high energy practice. A lot of leadership from the players themselves, which is a good thing to see. You always want to see your kids taking ownership of the program.
Right.
And when I talked to Tim, he mentioned that offensively, he's really relying on running back Brody McLaughlin, offensive lineman Danny McDonald, offensive lineman Jack Gillespie, and tight end Nolan Holt. Defensively, the defense coordinator is Craig Mahan. And defensively, safety Charlie Almeida, defensive lineman Nolan Holt, defensive lineman Owen Simcox, and defensive lineman Jack Gillespie are guys that he's all counting on. The strength coordinator, strength and conditioning coordinator is Brian Bowden, and you could tell watching them, they had some good-looking kids. They weren't huge. They didn't have a lot of big, giant offensive linemen, but they had a lot of really good, in-shape kids. They ran around. It was a hot afternoon when I went, and they were getting after it. So that's always good to see. As always, their big rivalry is Kennett, and along with Kennett, they got that game circled along with Ruston. And the Unionville Ruston games the last few years have also been in that part of the county. They've been big games. So, more to speak about that?
Yeah, well, they open up with Ruston.
Yeah.
So Unionville's going to find out right away where they're at, I think. And maybe it's good that they're playing Ruston that early.
And sometimes it's better to play a tough team early than play them late.
Play them late, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be a little bit different for Ruston. Ruston's used to playing 2 scrimmages. They like to take a little bit longer to get ready. So 9 games and 2 scrimmages. But now this year they're going to a 10-game schedule. So it'll technically really be a week early game for Ruston.
And Ruston has Springford as their scrimmage, so they run into Matt Zoller as
That's
the
true,
quarterback.
yeah.
So we'll
Very interesting.
know a little something about the Ruston defense after that scrimmage.
Unionville, just to finish up with Unionville, their phrase for the year is finish. They want to finish drives. They want to finish halves. They want to finish games. And finish is their mantra this year. So hopefully we'll see some good things out of Unionville and Coach Tim Murphy.
Okay, now the next team we're going to preview in the South is the Avon Grove Red Devils, led by Joe Coffey. He's in his 4th year. He's has 7 offensive starters and 3 defensive starters back from last year's team. His entire offensive line is back, and he's really excited about that. He has 4 seniors on the O-line. He says they're a very physical unit that likes to get after people. And he also has a 3-year starter back at quarterback, a kid named Frank Hogerworth. Frank has really matured as a quarterback. He's a dual threat guy, and Coffey says they're going to use his skills to our advantage, which means they're going to run the football a lot of RPO for Avon Grove this year. The realignment is something that a lot of coaches didn't like. Coffey is not one of them. He's excited about Avon Grove moving from the old Chesmont National to the Chesmont South Division this year. And he says the reason is he can play his 3 neighboring school districts, Kennett, Unionville, and Oxford, in games. And it's games that he said the community wanted and his alumni wanted. And, I think there's a community effort. If anybody's ever been down to Avon Grove when they had the parade, and the whole town comes out to that Saturday afternoon football game, you'll see how committed the community is to them. He's got a defensive leader, middle linebacker Jack Sheridan. He's the captain of the defense. He's a very physical player. He's big, he's strong, and Sheridan's the leader of the defense. The only question mark that Coffey has on his defense is his secondary. He's got 1 starter back, Jake Stein, very good cover man. And they have to replace Trevor Dosenbach, who had 8 interceptions last year and was one of the best athletes in the Chesmont. Great baseball player, too. He's going to Richmond, by the way. But Avon Grove, they're a big school, and they've struggled lately. But Joe Coffey says that their goal is to make the playoffs this year as a Division I playoff team. And he had 2 team goals for them. He wanted them to eliminate the pre-snap penalties and to keep up the team GPA in the classroom. And the goal is to be Chesmont South champs this year and make the district playoffs. He said our freshman program did a great job last year preparing them, so he's going to play some sophomores this year. And he says that he has a great bunch of kids that are very dedicated to getting better and making Avon Grove football the king of the Chesmont South.
And they're a sleeping giant, Pete.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the biggest school in Chester County,
Right.
in terms of population. Brand new high school. If you've ever been down there, I mean, it's like going to a small college
Beautiful.
campus.
Beautiful.
And so they have the facilities, they have the numbers, and it's just a matter of putting everything together.
Yeah.
And they've had success in the past with other head coaches, and I think, you know, if everything works out for them, I think they're going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about Avon Grove. They had a nice year going last year, and then they ran into the big boys at the end of the schedule, the Downingtowns and the Coastville, and they got obliterated. They didn't belong in the same field. I think that's a little different now. The South's going to be a little bit of a softer cushion for them in the schedule, and they don't really care what people think about them, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. They're very insulated, and I look for a good year from them. Their schedule starts off with Warwick, who is the middle of the pack, District 3 team. But, I think good things are happening down there.
I think one of the things that I do not question about Avon Grove is their snack bar. It's probably one of the best in the Chesmont. They do an unbelievable job with fries there. So whenever we would play away at at Avon Grove, I would always look forward to, if we scouted them or whatever, getting some fries at the snack bar. I think this is an interesting year. I think this is almost a telltale year.
Right.
You're moving into a new division. You are the largest school. You've had success in the past. I think if it wasn't last year, it was the year before. Didn't they really just miss the playoffs by like a game? They were right there. And now the thing that'll be interesting to see is you're a 6A school. Now you're playing
5A.
Mostly almost all 5A, maybe some 4A even. Like, is that, even if you win most of those games, is that going to be enough to get you into the playoffs, and what kind of seed are you going to get? That's the thing I would be
Especially at the
concerned
6A level. At the 6A District 1 level, there's a lot of teams when you go to when you go up north, when you go to Delco, and when you go up to Bucks County, they're all playing each other. They're all playing 6A teams.
Right. But I think coaches, what I think they want to do is, and Coffey's trying to establish like a baseline. Mm-hmm. Like let's get some wins here.
Yep.
Even if the competition isn't as stiff as it was in the past, and then build. The question is, can he build off that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At this time in our show, we'd like to pause and hear from a word from our sponsors at the PA Rebels. If you're looking for a travel baseball program that is competitive but focuses on player development, please check out the PA Rebels program out of Westchester, Pennsylvania. Their development program has led to over 45 players gain college baseball opportunities over the past 4 years. All right. We will not do a preview for Sun Valley. Sun Valley is in the Delco. It's in Delaware County, so that doesn't fall into our Chesmont area. But they are a part of this Southern Division, so let's make predictions. Pete, we'll start with you first.
I like Avon Grove to win this division. I think they're the best team in the division. I think Oxford's second. I really do. I think Oxford, I'm buying into the optimism, okay? That I think they're going to push Avon Grove. I think Kennett's going to have a good year. Sun Valley's going to struggle. And I think Unionville is going to struggle a little with numbers. I think it's going to be a game of attrition with them. But Avon Grove should win this division.
I like the Avon Grove. Again, we talked about they've got the numbers, they've got the facilities, and hopefully Coach Coffey will get them going. I like a dark horse. I like Kennett.
Okay.
I love what Coach Frazier does. I love he brings a toughness, and he brings a sense of purpose to that football team.
And Geyer's the best player in the division.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
I remember playing against or coaching against him when he was a sophomore, and he was a grown man as a sophomore. Yeah. So I look for Kennett to have a say in that Southern Division.
Okay. You said dark horse. I don't know if I'm going to call him a dark horse because I also like Kennett. I do like Avon Grove and their numbers. I do like Avon Grove's program as well. So maybe that's really going to be a telltale game, Kennett Avon Grove. Oxford does have some people back. I'm going to shy away from them a little bit only because of they haven't had success in the past, right? So, like, my belief as a coach is you kind of have to get there once or get close to being there.
You're like, how do you win these one-score games? You
Yeah,
have to
you
start
got to jump
winning
over
them
the
at some
hump.
point.
Agreed. But now, and I think health is going to play a lot. When you're in the Southern Division, you don't have the 6A teams. Now, Avon Grove does, but, like, if you just get one kid nicked or that kid, like Coach Wolf said before, hey, you've now lost 2 starters and 3 or 4 starters because 2 kids got hurt and they played on both sides of the ball.
Right.
So that could really be a difference.
Welcome back, Chester County football fans and friends. Welcome to another edition of ChesCo Insiders. Today we're at Kottmeyer Stadium, home of Downingtown football, and we're honored to have the athletic director for both Downingtown high schools with us, Mr. Cory Seagle. Cory, thanks for coming out.
Appreciate it, Pete. Appreciate you guys asking me to be a part of this, and looking forward to another upcoming season.
Cory, I wanted to ask you something. It's a big year in the Chesmont League. Realignment last year. We went from 2 divisions to 3 divisions. I wanted to know, why and why now?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So our old format with the 8-5 wouldn't work with our new partnership and league agreement with the PAC. Our goal as a league has been always to get competitive games for everybody in our league. All 13 schools, not just the big schools or the small schools, trying to get competitive games. If we stayed in that format, the 8th division, the American division for football, wouldn't be able to cycle through all their in-house games to determine a league champion.
Right.
So we knew that upcoming with the PAC, that the deal that we've worked out with them, it was going to be for 2 games. It's going to be for weeks 3 and 4. In order to do that, we had to shift away.
Well, let me ask you about the the agreement with the Pioneer Athletic Conference. You were with the Del Valle 2-year agreement, and now you went away from it. I think the PAC provides better competition. Was that part of the thought process?
Absolutely, and to be 100% transparent, years ago when we did go with the Del Valle, Mickey McDaniel, the former athletic director at Springford, and I tried to work something out, in the past. It didn't get off the ground. We went with the Del Valle. We both had a need. I think that we both fulfilled those needs. I just think at the time we needed to go in a different direction for our member schools. And the PAC is very representative of us.
Yes.
They have a good mix. They have 4A schools. They have a good mix of 5A, and they have a good mix of 6A. They're very like us in terms of structure, and I think it provides a competitive balance.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, there's been some mixed emotions among the coaches, with the new realignment and everything, saying they weren't really involved in the process. How do you respond to that?
Well, here's what I can say is every athletic director from our member schools was involved in the conversations.
Okay.
There was a vote whether we went with 3. There was a vote for whether we were going to align with the PAC, and those votes were unanimous. There was no dissenting votes.
Okay.
So I would challenge them to talk to their athletic administrators.
Okay.
That's really what we did.
Okay. Last question I want to ask you, Cory. Football Friday. What is the day like for you for a Football Friday home game? I mean, it's got to be hectic.
It's hectic, fun. There's anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000, 10,000 if you're talking east-west of our closest friends in our community. This community is very behind athletics and very behind football. And I think that going back to when we were one school, our coaches did a tremendous job. Mike Matta and Michael Milano have done a great job since our split, and we're looking to continue that tradition. This is, in my opinion, one of the best venues in the state to watch a football game.
Speak about Mike Milano. He retired, a legend in Round District 1, a district title in 2019, multiple Chesmont championships, a trip to the finals of the District 1 last year. Tom Klein takes over.
Yeah.
Tom was on Mike's staff for a number of years.
Yeah.
How do you see West football going forward under Tom Klein?
I think Tom's ready for the challenge. He's been a head coach. He brings with him head coaching experience. As you mentioned, he's been on Milano's staff for the last 10 plus years. And I think he's got a great vision for the program, and I think he's going to carry on what has been instilled here since the split. So I'm looking forward to supporting him in his role in Downingtown West football.
Okay, thank you, Cory.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Pete.
Fans, that's it from the mover and shaker of the Chesmont League, Cory Seagle. Thank you for watching.